What is going on, guys? The difference is all again with my review of Gangsta episode 4, and this episode, it was actually pretty freaking fantastic. Now, of course, this episode was like mainly set up, but that ending right there, I'm definitely looking forward to next week because right now, I cannot wait to see that fight between this new tag that has appeared and Nicholas, because that fight right there, it's going to be nothing but hype. But the episode itself, it starts off now where there are reports of like some kind of like slasher going around and and messing people up. And right now, well, when I first heard that like Nicholas and Worick, but they were like called in, I thought maybe that they were like being framed for this, but that is not the case because we have the chief, or Chad. He has now called them in because he actually wants their help, and we see now that while they were doing that, we have this like pretty powerful scene with Alex, because obviously she did not get that much screen time, but that scene with her, that right there was like pretty freaking powerful, because right now we see she's suffering through some kind of like post-traumatic syndrome, from the first episode, from where she like with that pimp of hers, and right now she was thinking at first that she has to like leave this place, get a new job and start a new life, but then we have her ghost, now haunting her, her old pimp, he was like telling her in her mind, of course, why don't you, spare her legs, for these new guys. And right now she had to calm down and reassure herself that, these two, they were like different, and they were like, never asked her to do that. And obviously, that right there is the case. But after, Worick and Nicholas were like being questioned, of course, we see now that when the newbie came in and talked to Worick, we see now that, he bought Worick all these files, and pretty much, what Chad here wanted him to do was to help them identify all these victims. And we see now that, even the police, science lab, or whatever lab they were using, even they were like stumped on who the people were. But we see now Worick here, he was like going through that book, so freaking fast. He was like able to identify, I don't know if like all of them, but a lot of people though. And now we see that this guy, Worick, he's like pretty freaking smart, because he had this like fantastic memory. And we see now that through these few flashbacks that we'll touch up on, but there was like one scene that I want to bring up, and it was with Nicholas and Chad. And we see now Chad here, the cop, he was like asking Nicholas about that girl, and we see now that, or I'm thinking at least, that girl that we saw, the one that's like so sick now, I'm thinking that right there must be Veronica that Chad had brought up. So I do want to check what happened to her, because that right there is now the biggest mystery in the series, because obviously now we are definitely getting more of Worick flashback revealed. And I am glad that even though it's not all at once and it's like broken into parts, at least it's now better having most of it blacked out and going by so quickly. But in the flashback, and with Worick's past, we see now this guy always had a pretty good memory, because he could like memorize stuff pretty quick. And we even see at one point he memorized this book that his homeschool teacher was like teaching him, and he was like telling her that he knew this now because he's on his own, and obviously she not had to come in there no more. But obviously that right there was not the case, because she would still come no matter what. But we see now that through the flashback, we see how Worick and Nicholas met, because Nicholas here was like boarding as a bodyguard. And now I'm not sure if that other gentleman with him was a father or not, but he was there at least. And we see now that while Nicholas was like acting as a bodyguard, we see now in another flashback scene, there was at one point where we have his maids, talking bad about him. And not only that, we do learn that, Worick's father had something had a part two on the side. Now I'm not sure if that right there is like Worick's mother. Now I'm not sure, but obviously, that right there pissed him off. And then there was like one scene where we had Worick where we have Nicholas going into a room full of men, and we see now that after he closed the door, that right there is where it cut to the next day. But we see now that Nicholas here, he was actually, pretty banged up, and we even see now Worick here had his arm, like pretty messed up as well. And so we have no idea what happened to Worick at least, but it's obvious, Nicholas picked a fight with these men, and obviously, got beat up for it. And for now, let me finish covering, the rest of the flashback, because right now the episode itself, in the present time stuff, that right there was like pretty intense. And so we see that at one point Worick here was trying to talk to Nicholas, and obviously, he was not responding. And when Worick got mad, and asked him why he wasn't talking to him, because he thought maybe that like he thought maybe his father ordered him not to. We see now that right there is where, Worick learned that, Nicholas could not hear, because obviously he is deaf. And so we see at one point, for some reason, Worick here locked himself inside his room, and we see now that his maids obviously, getting mad. They have called him effective, and we see now, like normally none of them would go in there. But Nicholas, he did not care, and he went inside because obviously he didn't know any better. But we see that, for some reason, Worick here threw his book at Nicholas, but Nicholas does not know how to read, and so he gave it back. And I'm guessing that right there is how these two maybe started to become friends, because I believe that right there is where the flashback ended. But now in the present time, we had Mr. Monroe. Obviously one of the bigger ups. He was now locked, in like a gun battle, and we even see now that at one point they were like this sniper aiming at him, and out of nowhere, Mr. Monroe got a pretty good headshot on him. And to me, that right there was impressive. But he wanted Nicholas and Worick, to come there ASAP, so that way they can activate shields in case something happened. And obviously, these two, are going to listen. But Chad here definitely was not, happy with how, Mr. Monroe was like treating them. But we see now that for the most part, Mr. Monroe's side definitely won this. But then out of nowhere, we have some kid showing up, and this kid, turns out to be a tag. And there was like this one special guy named Danny, I believe, or something like that. But he wore this black suit, and this guy was like a pretty good gunman. And we see now that when this child appeared, and we have one of his men, questioning him, when he got a warning, it was like too late, and we saw this guy actually cut his head off. And I'll be honest, I was like kind of shocked that scene right there was not censored. But guess what? I was loving that. I am definitely glad this series is definitely not being held back by censorship, because I'll be honest, I definitely love my gore, and this series, has the right amount of it. But this new tag that appeared, he is like definitely quick and agile. Like I was like shocked to see that he could move this well. But obviously his real target was like Mr. Monroe. But we do learn actually that he was like supposed to be, bring him in alive and not kill him. But now we see Nicholas and Worick, they were now making their way to it, and obviously Nicholas was like in a rush, while Worick here was like taking his time. But obviously he had tried to get Nick to slow down, but obviously he would not do that. And so we see that, as the battle went on, eventually we have this new tag, eventually cornering, Mr. Monroe. Oh, and there was like one scene where we have this kid, once again putting off this innocent act, and we had Danny or Don, whatever her name was, calling one of his men to warn him. But we see now that the two got behind it was like too late, and we see now that even this young person was like going to lose their life till Mr. Monroe stepped involved. And that right there was awesome, because even though this guy can like use this man so horribly, he can still hold his own in the fight. And to me, that right there was like was kind of impressive, to be honest with you. But now we see at one point where we have Mr. Monroe eventually, eventually pissing off this tag on purpose. And we see now, Nicholas and Worick finally arrived. And so apparently, whatever group Mr. Monroe was like going against, they were the one that had like called this tag. But the thing is, they did it without getting their boss permission. So obviously right now, this right here is like an illegal act. So obviously, you know, whenever this does blow over and people learn about this, obviously there will definitely be some kind of punishment. And so now we see that when Nicholas and Worick came, you know, Worick here using his guns, shot someone in the back of the head. And I don't know why, but that right there had made me laugh so freaking hard. And then we see, obviously, you know, Nicholas took care of the others. But now we have Nicholas, you know, now heading out. And Worick here was like calling out to him. But at first, Nicholas was like ignoring him till Worick got mad and hit this steel pipe. And there they actually made it been quite a bit. But now we see Worick was like giving him, you know, some kind of warning. But that right there, you know, but after hearing that was there, it's where you know, Nicholas, you know, left to go handle business. And so now we have this tag, you know, getting closer and closer to Mr. Monroe, because he was like taking out all these men. And not only that, we see now that, you know, when he got close to him, we have Danny or Don, whatever his name is, you know, coming in there and using his own body as a shield to protect him. And so now we learn that, you know, this guy, Danny or Don or whatever his name is, we see now that he's also a tag, but he is like a low member. I believe his ranking was like a D. And then we see now that the new tag droid, this right here was the only one, but that right there, you know, almost led to his downside, because we have Nego, you know, after taking some medicine, you know, appear out of nowhere, you know, behind him. But this new tag is pretty good, because we see now that even though he blocked it, he actually did lose part of one of his blades. And so now we see both of them are actually the same rank. So obviously this fight will be good. And we even see now Mr. Monroe, you know, making it into some kind of betting game. But like I said, the episode overall, to me, I loved it. It was good. You know, all that gore, all that, you know, all that, you know, gun battle, you know. Even this new tag impressed me with how skilled and fast he is. I was just digging it, you know, overall. And so with that, I'll probably get maybe a 9 out of 10, because like I said, it was set up. If we actually got the fight between Nico and the new tag, I probably would give it a 10. But of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really helps me out. And you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.